So that's all I have to say about the track menu. The next menu option is loop, which is used for copying and modifying data between loops. So to get to the loop menu, you push start, and then you select down to get to loop, and push right on the D-pad to select that. So you can see there are 5 options here. The first one is copy track to loop, then copy loop, copy track to all loops, clear loop, and rename loop. Copy track to loop is used to copy a single track to another loop. After selecting this option, you're given a list of all tracks. So I'm going to select copy track to loop. Now you have the list of all tracks. I'm going to copy from BAM0, so I will push right on the D-pad. And then after selecting that, you're given the option to choose which loop you want to copy to. So we're currently in loop 0, and you can push up or down on the analog or digital pad in order to change the loop number. So I'm going to copy this data to loop 10. So then you push X, and now if I go use the right trigger, you can see that all the synthesizer data from BAM0 in loop 0 was copied to loop 10. So now I'm going to go back to, I'll stay in loop 10. And what I'll do is I will trigger a few more hits in this loop. So trigger something there, trigger something there. Okay, so now the next thing I want to show you is copy loop. So copy loop copies all parameters from the current loop to another loop. So you push start, and then push down to select loop, and then push down to select copy loop and push to the right. So now it first asks you for the source loop to copy from, so I'm going to select copy loop 10, so push X, and then it's asking what the destination should be. So I'm going to copy this to loop 15. Again, you can use the analog or digital pad to change the source and destination loops. So now I'm going to push X, and it confirms that you want to do this copy, and select yes. And then I will push the right trigger to get to loop 15. And you see everything from loop 10 was copied to loop 15. Now, this also will delete everything that was already in loop 15 before, so you have to be careful when using copy loop that you're not copying over data you care about. So, the next option is copy track to all loops. So this copies a single track to every loop in PSPSeq. There are 100 different loops in PSPSeq, so it'll copy the data 99 times. So what I'm going to do is copy the BAM0 track to all loops. So I'm going to push start, push down on the D-pad to get to loop, and push to the right. Go to copy track to all loops, select BAM0, and then it'll confirm that I want to copy to all loops, push up on the D-pad and push X. And now if I push right trigger, you can see that that every loop has BAM0 data. If I go back to loop 15, you can see that all the other tracks were untouched. So copy track to all loops doesn't affect any of the other tracks, it just affects the one you choose to copy. So next, I'm going to show you clear loop, which just clears all the data from all tracks in a loop. So push start, push down on the D-pad, select loop. You can push up on the D-pad to get to clear loop, select it, and it asks if you want to clear the current loop, loop 15, push up on the D-pad, push X, and now loop 15 is completely clear. But if you go to loop 16, 17, 18, etc., all of them still have all of the data that was copied from the previous operation. So go back to loop 15. So the last option under loop is rename loop. And this allows you to change the name of a loop. So I'm going to push start, and push down to get to loop, push up to get to rename loop, and push to the right. So it asks you which loop you want to rename, so you can use the analog or digital pad to choose the loop you want to rename. I will rename loop 15. I'll push X. And now you're given a chance to change this name. So those numbers at the bottom of the screen next to LP, those can be any name you want them to be. By default, they're just a sequential series of numbers from 00 to 99. But in order to make composing music easier, you can change them to whatever names make sense to you. So I will change the name of loop 15 to bad. So push up on the D-pad. Then you push left or right on the D-pad in order to change which character you're editing. You can also use the analog pad to edit characters by pushing up or down on that. So I'm going to set it to bad and push X. And now you can see next to LP is bad. And if I push left trigger, the previous loop is 14, then the next one after that is bad.